Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to welcome you all. I, Radhika, on behalf of Educo Hire, welcome all the participants and speaker over here. In the beginning, I just want to introduce first Educo Hire is. Educo Hire is a joint venture of mytrustedtutor.com and Educo Pro. EducoHire.com features K-12 teachers job opportunities in top CBSE schools, ICSE schools, IGCSE schools, and IB schools, preschools, play schools, primary schools, and many more. Educators looking to hire teachers can post online teaching job vacancies for free, easily managed teaching recruitment. I'm glad to announce that Educo Hire also came up with a new project, Educo Train. Educo Train is the service launched by GoPro and educohire.com, wherein we will provide following services: teachers training solution to schools, colleges, and institutions, training to school students on life skills, training to college students fresher from campus to careers. Educo Train is going to be a training solution which is going to be non-conventional. This platform is going to build or develop skills to upgrade or stay relevant in your current or future job or business. Now I would like to introduce our speaker, Sumit sir. Firstly, before introducing Sumit sir, want to tell one thing. Being a counselor is not just what the world of education wants. The world today is evolving from being a teacher to a facilitator. Now, Sumit Majumdar sir and his team has been dealing with students, teachers, and professionals under the banner of behavior. The application of knowledge is what he focuses over gaining knowledge. His principle of counseling is based on the concept of de-learn and relearn. This has deep-rooted psychometric analysis behind it, as it is the response that is achieved from the visual brain when modulated gives the best of results, and thereby this holds a prime place in his interactions. Dr. Sumit Majumdar sir holds doctorate degree in physics and econophysics and has been in the field of education as a teacher, mentor, facilitator, and whatnot. An interaction with him and his team would surely enlighten you and help you to look at the world in a new light. Along with this, he was conferred with the Indian Achievers Award for Excellence in Education. It's very glad to know, sir, about you all. About you, it's a very huge thing. And now I want to make an announcement. Please stay till the end. At the end, I will be sharing a feedback form and certification form and few links as well through which you can stay connected with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. All of you are safe and sound, and everybody is in your family is also safe and sound. So the topic that we are going to discuss today is basically main topic that we are discussing today is basically how to keep the students motivated. As all of you know that we are in the stage of pandemic wherein all the classes everything has actually gone online, right? Now the way we have to teach the students, have to motivate the student becomes very, very important. So as a result, I'll just share my experience that how exactly I feel that we should be keeping the students motivated. The reason this topic becomes very important is that if we don't keep the students motivated, in that case they will lose interest, or they may lose interest, and then it will become a kind of a burden for us to make the students motivated again and to make them learn. The efforts that we put needs to bear fruit, right? So on that ground, I'll just start from here. So what I feel is that motivation is like kind of any relationship, like a marriage or anything. You have to keep evolving, you have to keep the zeal on. If it does not work, we have to try it out. So it's like a passion. So motivation is going to fade away if you don't kind of keep feeding on it on a day-to-day basis, right? Further, it also takes time and effort and energy. Okay, it takes time, effort and energy, but it is actually very, very worthy of it, right? It takes efforts, but obviously it bears fruit. Now, you may say that why exactly we need to keep motivation, motivation as a perspective. See, to motivate or to basically get the best out of your students, you have to motivate. And the best way to do it is that if you yourself are motivated, it rubs down to your students. So if you have a passion for teaching, if you have a passion for delivering the lectures, the content to your students, it is more likelihood that it is going to show up on the students end as well. Similarly, if you feel that okay, I have to do this as a mundane job, then obviously it will rub down to the students as well. Again, this is my experience, and this is my experience for the last 20 years of teaching. So based on this, I feel that if you don't get, or if you don't feel like doing at a particular instant of time, then the students also may lose interest, and to get it back is going to be a very difficult task. Okay, now I feel a couple of things are there. So on that ground, I've just tried to kind of build up a model which I use to train the teachers. So basically tell them what I feel that works. Okay, that is, we can basically say that the way to motivate can be put it in the three ways: expectancy, value, and cost. It is, don't take the cost on a literal sense. It is actually a cost that I'll just show it to you from the student's perspective. Okay. Now, what does expectancy stand for? Expectancy, as the name suggests, that what is the expected, that is what is expected from the student, that what the, if the student actually does succeed in doing the task, what exactly will he get? If he is able to do it, obviously he will feel energized. Okay, I could do it, right? Then going further is the value that is associated with that task. If you are giving the student a particular task, then the student has to understand what is the importance of doing that particular task. It is very, very important. If the student feels no, it is just a mundane thing, just to do it, just to do it for the sake of doing it, I'm studying history for the sake of doing it, no, it is not that case. So coming back to the concept, that what we have is the following, that it gives a meaning, a value to a particular task, that why exactly that particular task is important, right? Why do we need to do that task? Why exactly that task needs to be done by the student? So there is a value associated. There is not a cost value, there is a importance that is associated. Then comes the case of cost, as I said. So the student feels, okay, I need to do the assignment, fair enough, but I would gain much more fun if I just play that game, because students are very, very well adept in playing games like PUBG and others. I'm just naming them. So the student is going to weigh down on the barriers. That is, if I do this as a successful assignment, what will I gain? So it's the cost associated with it, right? I hope so far it makes sense. Then, so to make the students understand that this is the way, if you do this, it's going to help you in these things. So if you put the weightage on them, so the student will be able to figure out, okay, if I do this, I get this. If I do that, then I get this. So he can weigh down his opportunities, his options. So that is the kind of cost that we put it across. Now, so what exactly are the important questions? Just to summarize here. So here, expectancy from the student end. Can I do the task? As a student, he should be asking himself, with the information that is given, with the knowledge that is given, can I do the task? If not, then what next? Value. Do I want to do the task? Do I feel like it should be done by me? Or can I just skip on that? Now that I can basically base the value, or basically segregate the value into three parts. One is the intrinsic or interest value. What does that mean? That is, what is the importance of that value? What is the enjoyment? Is there a enjoyment the student is getting to do that task? What is the utility? What is the usefulness? If can he utilize that in something in his daily life? Can he utilize that in his games, or the things that he likes, or for that matter something which he can utilize on a long term goal? So there the teacher's role becomes very, very important, so as to make him understand what is the learning outcome of doing anything. So the student is going to weigh down on the value, and once he does that, what is it gaining? Is he gaining marks? Is he gaining knowledge? What is it that is gaining? The attainment, the value of attainment. Then, I don't like maths, I don't like physics. I'm just giving examples. I have been forced to do this, I've been forced to do that. So can the student break his barrier to learn and put his resources and energy into do something? Can he do that? Or basically he can just carry on? So this is something like the cost associated with that. So the cost associated with the investment in that. Now, how to answer those questions? If you feel that I'm going too fast, please let me know, I'll slow down. So now, going ahead, how to answer the question, these questions. First thing, involve your students. See, we are in a generation where we cannot, there cannot be any corporal punishment. We have to treat the students as friends. We have to treat the students as kind of, so that we make friends with them, and obviously keeping a boundary between us and students, but we have to motivate them to learn, because there are so many distractions the students have, that they will not be able to justify themselves that why they should be studying. If a teacher is just monotonously just teaching, why should they study? They will not. So you have to involve, give them the opportunity to lead the class. So it has to be student centric, that you make the students kind of benefit of learning, a benefit to be learning from you, from your class. So it should be student centric. You should act like a coach, a mentor, a facilitator for the students to learn. You make them ask question, you make them do the things, do the assignments, do the assessments, so that they understand the intricacies, they understand why exactly this thing, they're studying of a particular subject, whether it's commerce, whether it's accounting, whether what exactly they're learning out of it, how exactly it can help them, and for that matter they should be feeling encouraged and involved to learn. So therefore, you should be the first person who should involve the students. Obviously, as teachers, we feel that we know better. Obviously, we do know better. It is just to channelize our energy. Then, give the students a chance to shine. Many of us, including me, when I started teaching, what I felt that, okay, I have to tone it down, I have to tone down the students. No, that does not really help. You have to understand the mentality of the student. What exactly is he coming from? Which is the background he's coming from? What is it that motivates him? And is he an introvert? Has he been always subjected to kind of subjugation? There are many aspects. To motivate a child, to motivate two different students, it's going to be completely two different ways to do it. You cannot just say one thing and that's going to motivate everybody. All students are different. All students come from different mentalities, different hierarchies of societies. When we teach in a class, there are different students coming from different areas. For example, I'll give you my example, my personal example. I was very, very weak in English when I was in class 10th and so on. So everybody, including all my classmates, used to make fun of me. As a result, what happened is that I got demoralized. I used to be a topper till class 6th. From 7th, 8th, 9th, from 8th onward, I started failing. I started failing in classes. Ninth is the time, or should I say 10th is the time when my English teacher motivated me. Then I got the highest in English. See, I'm just giving an example. That is, you have to motivate a student. There may be reasons why exactly a student is not motivated. There can be family issues, there can be societal issues. We do not know. We have to understand. Okay, now give them tasks where they can see the results. Okay, many students feel, okay, I am done doing it, but I'm not getting the results. Yes, that is very much true. We all put in efforts, not every effort gives us the result. So we have to give them, we have to understand, as I said, we have to understand them and then assign them those tasks that will make them shine in those efforts. We have to fix so for them, we have to understand them, we have to talk to them, we have to talk individually, and that is when the students will feel, okay, I am being given an importance. Everybody likes being given an importance. So once the student is able to do it, yeah, I did it, oh wow, I could do it, I never felt that I could do it, that is going to give him or her a zeal to further work on it. If we always try to feel, say that, okay, that's a very bad student, he's very weak in studies, she is very weak in studies, no, that is obviously going to bring down the morale. That's always going to I would request, if you can just mute yourself, I can hear somebody's sound. So so what I'm saying, simply saying, is that if we motivate everybody, if we try to understand the psychology, it's very difficult to understand each and every students. We can have 30, 40, 50 students in our class. It's going to be very difficult for them. But having said that, even if we can try to shape the careers, try to motivate at least 25 to 30% of our students, at least we have done some effort. It's going to rub down on others also. They will also try to do it as a peer pressure. Then, see, in an online mode, I feel that it's completely different from our regular chalk and talk method, wherein we write down and the students copy it down. First thing is that the student is not able to see you physically. Howsoever we can communicate through video chat and so on, there's a lot of distraction. You cannot control what all students are there. And then if you bring in the monotonicity that we read through something and you expect the student to learn, that is that goes down. That is a little difficult. That's a little difficult in modern age with so many distractions. And online has this lacuna that it is very difficult for anybody to concentrate for a very long time, right? Because we are looking into the screen for a very, very long duration, and students obviously are much, much younger. So it becomes very difficult. Now, how to circumvent that? How to overcome that? So for that, try to make classes fun. Try to make the learning fun. There can be different ways of doing that. That is, you bring in some videos, right? You try to, for example, if you're teaching English, there are many things. For example, if you can try bringing Friends, an episode of Friends is basically a popular comedy series in English. So if you try to bring in Friends, so they many a times use examples of simile. Similarly, you get so many animated videos and so on. I'm just giving examples, so that's going to make the students listen to you. If you can grab the attention of the students, then you can make things happen by playing with the psychology. Just bring down your level, try to bring down your level to the level of students so that they feel wanted in the class. Try to use humor depending upon obviously which grade the student is in. Try to bring in some different examples, use caricatures to do that and so on. Now, when I say games and competitions, now these games are not literal games, mind you. Where I'm talking about is that we all of us are aware of, let's say, quiz competitions. So they that's kind of game, right? Similarly, let's say if we are talking about grades 11th and 12th, in that case, we play games in the sense, let's say we want to model a particular structure of chemistry, or we want to let's say we want to understand something in physics, let's say projectile motion, or we would like to understand about trigonometry in mathematics, or for example we want to understand in accounts how exactly a debit chart is made, and so on. So for doing that, you give them example. That is, you for example, you are talking about accounts, you give them an example. You have a daily shop which has a particular set of you give them a kind of monetary cash, or let's say playing cash and so on, and then ask them to kind of increase their profits and so on, or do sell a particular things. So these are games which will help them in understanding what is debit, what is credit, what is profit, and so on. Similarly, if you ask them to kind of do an animation on let's say on playing cricket, so the ball hits the bat and it goes up. So using that, you can explain them the projectile motion. I'm just giving examples. And moreover, everybody, all of us love competition, and with peer pressure, obviously that is going to give the students an opportunity to interact. They can understand, they can learn from each other. Many a times these days we are also disconnected, and we are not really related with the studies when we are, even if we are connected. So this is going to help them to build up the rapport in studies and to take it further. I hope so far it makes sense. Then when I say step away from textbooks, I don't mean that you should just remove or throw away the textbooks. I'm not talking about that. See, textbooks have a particular set of definitions, a particular theory, and so on and so forth. It is fine. Obviously, it is needed for to be in that perspective. But let's put a little bit weight on that. That is the student, is everybody learning from there? For example, if we talk about NCERT, I'm just not criticizing, I'm just giving an example. NCERT is a very, very good book. I'm just giving an example again, but it is very concise. Not every student. I was a very poor student. So I'm not giving anybody's example. I'm talking about myself. I was a very poor student. I could not understand quite a few things, in specifically in physics and chemistry. I had to be told. So many a times there are different things, there are different ways, as I just gave some examples. There are different ways to bring in the knowledge from the textbook. You elaborate further. So you can create your own content in the form of, obviously there are many things which are available on the net as well. So you can use that. So you can create your own content, and along with that, you can interact with the students. Apart from that, what I mean by your own activities, in the sense, you try to devise examples, you try to devise some experiments, some activities, some small thing which you can actually perform. For example, in chemistry you have something like a ball and stick model. In case someone of you is from chemistry, MSc physics or MSc chemistry, you would have studied about the ball and stick model, using which you try to make structures. So that helps the student to identify a 3D model of the different chemical formulae and so on, right? So it helps. Similarly, you can try building up a small structure and use trigonometry to find out the heights and so on and so forth. So that helps, and you can tell them, the students, in case they are going for engineering and so on, see, this is how you can use this in civil engineering when you go for and try to figure out the height and so on, when you cannot actually measure and so on. So these are some activities that you can do, which can be done if you try to think out of the box. And there are many resources that are available these days. Okay. Now, there are always students who will feel that, okay, I am doing it this way. I feel it this way. And I'm getting the correct answer. Who are you to tell me that this is wrong? Yes. If you keep telling, okay, go to this particular page and do this exercise, the students are going to get bored. It is not that way. If you want them to do it, just try to understand. As I said, give them an activity. I'll give you one more example that I carried it out. It was like gamification. So how exactly it had to be done is that the scenario was, a child enters a forest. Now, in the forest, he sees different things. Now, I'm just giving an example. There is a small pond. He has to cross that. So how will he cross that? He doesn't know what is the length needed. So there is a plank, right? So there is a plank which can be moved, like in the shape of a, or there is a hinge on one end. It can be moved to, and that plank can go to the other end. Using that, he can walk it down. So using that, he plays around as to which plank will work, should be the length of the plank. What is he learning from there? The distance, the heights and distances, the length, the width. So these are, I'm just giving an example. That was for a very small kid. So these are some things that you can use to actually demonstrate the questions. I know it's very work intensive, but if you would like the students to learn, actually, this should actually be done. And then from there you can actually figure out why exactly they should be doing exercises, so that they can figure out, they can understand what can be the different ways of putting the same thing across. Whether you want to know what should be the length of the plank, or what should be the length of the width of the river, how exactly it needs to be understood. So that is where you have to think out of the box, and then the students will realize, okay, what I was doing, even though I was getting it right this time, but not necessarily I was doing the correct way. Okay, now this is very, very important. When we talk about getting something, we should be clear about our learning outcome. That is, what exactly are we expecting the student to understand and deliver? You can basically, if you are an engineering student, or if you're trying to give something for an engineering student, you give them some planks and try to work it out. Not everything that works out that way. So you have to be very clear in the task that you are doing, and to be very clear about the what needs to be done, what is the outcome, so that it will help the students to, okay, assimilate, understand, and then prepare questions, so that they can ask you, understand the concept, and then ask questions to you. So that if they ask question, that means they are trying to understand. Don't discourage them to ask questions, howsoever silly it may be. Try, make them ask questions. That's going to even help you to make your instructions clear, right? Further, from a student's perspective, if the student does not know what he or she needs to do, then it is going to be very frustrating for them, because they will not be able to do it. We are not talking about simple mathematics. The student does not know the process that needs to be followed to do a particular thing. So your instructions, your clarity of instruction is very much important. The student, if the student does not get the clarity of instruction, the student will lose interest. They'll feel that, okay, this is not my cup of tea. If you remember, I talked about the value associated, they will feel the cost. Okay, these things I have put in a lot of effort, I'm not getting it. Instead, I will play games. I'm anyways getting 40-50%, so I'll pass anyways. So they will not motivated enough to learn. So your instructions are very important. So they need to be having a very much clarity about what they want to do and what they don't want to do. Okay, then obviously, at the end of every lecture or at the end of every chapter, you have to set a goal for the students to get it. Okay, so if you're coming from the student's perspective, so the student should feel that the time that they invested, okay, like all of you are investing, you should feel that it is worthwhile. It was worthwhile of you spending time with me, you spending time here, right? So similarly, from the student's perspective, the student should leave the class feeling, okay, I have got something. I was not able to do it, but now I feel motivated enough to do it. If I put in efforts, I'll definitely get the results also. So they are going to feel that they got something out of it. So for doing that, as I've been stressing, you should start by writing down what exactly is your lesson plan or the learning objective, so that the students know what they are looking at, what is the outcome that is expected once they are done with the chapter. If they don't know what is going to be done, maybe that is something that they are not interested in, they may walk out, fine. But if something they feel interesting, if you make your learning outcome so interesting that they will feel, okay, this is not my thing, but I will still like to attend it. So that is where is the first thing. So your learning outcome should be clear. What are the things that you expect the student to do? Similarly, at the end of the class, point to the lesson plan and go over everything. That is, there should be a summary. What all did the student learn? And same thing should go to, if you're doing a particular chapter which is not getting over on a particular day, then, and there are multiple lectures that are needed. So when you're starting the first lecture, you should try to write down the learning outcome, the lesson plan, that today we are going to do this, tomorrow you are going to do this, the next day we are going to do this. When you're winding up on the first day, just summarize. Obviously majority of you must be doing it. I'm just trying to stress because these small things play a huge role. Then when you come to the next class, just summarize what was done in the last class and then what you're going to do in the next class. The students will be clear. In case they did not attend it, they will go back and kind of revise themselves. That is also known as something which is known as a flip class model. In the flip class, teachers actually encourage the students to first go through the chapter before coming to the next class, so that the students already know, it is there in their mind that what exactly they are expected. Okay, now it is important to see where exactly they are now, and if they learn a particular thing, then where will it take. So it should be very realistic and achievable, even though it has high standards, but it should be achievable. If they feel that, or if they're not able to achieve even after repeated attempt, that means there is something wrong. We have to address that, and if we don't address that, again we are going to lose motivation. Then all of us have just been sitting, majority of us including me, I would say, that we just are sitting whole day because there is no dynamics involved, right? What it does is that it becomes a very sedentary lifestyle. Sedentary lifestyle induces many bad things, bad effects on our body, bad effects on our mentality, on our behavior, everything. We start getting lazy, the body becomes lazy, and we need to bring in the social dynamics, including the movement, something that at least if you're sitting for I've been told that at least if you have been sitting for 1 hour, I should just go walk around for 10 minutes, then come back and sit, so that the body also is in motion. Like our mind, the body also is in motion. That is very important. That is very important. Now to do that, if we try to kind of pair the students, or ask them to work in groups, try to ask them to move, let's say after some time, or in an actual class it becomes very difficult because it's going to create commotion. But when we are talking about in online classes, just encourage them. Okay, stand up, recite this, do this, that, do that. So what's going to do is that, and similarly kind of ask them to change partners. So what it is going to do, it's going to build up a rapport at the first place with others. Secondly, it's going to help them keep their bodies healthy, because with just sitting for the whole day, 8 hours, it's only going to make their body unhealthy, right? It's going to only make them think in a very bad way. If there are so many distracting things, so it's only going to help them think bad. So let's try to avoid that. Now to keep the students attention, there has to be some activities. See, quite a few teachers I have seen, even my son is there, who's in class 5th now. I won't discuss any of the teachers, but it's just that they feel that the way they have been teaching in a regular class, they can do the same when they are doing in an online class. No, that does not really help, because if you just read through some text and you expect the child to follow, a class grade 5 6 student will lose interest after 10 to 15 minutes. So to engage, there has to be modulation in your voice, there has to be modulation, or there has to be differential activities that you need to do to keep the interest of the student. Just for the sake of that they are attentive, you take names and ask them, okay, that is one way, but that is just a fear factor. That does not really help the students actually get engaged. You have to bring in engaging meaningful activities so that the student teacher kind of environment becomes happy, the student feels interested. I have seen my child not feeling interested. He just means I have tried to make him encourage, but after 10 to 15 minutes, he loses interest. He starts doing something or the other. I'm just telling. Obviously, as a parent, that is my failure, but we as teachers should feel that way. So I'm coming from that perspective. Now, to take it further, we have to use different materials. We have to just not look into the textbook, read it through. We can do multiple things in an online domain. We can use animations. There are many animations that are available. We can use videos to capture. It is just that we have to think out of the box, that what all we can do. Then we can have a small poll. The students will feel, okay, I have to answer this. If I don't, I will be left out. We can do that. We can use flashcards. Flashcards have been in use for many years now, but we can do that. There are plenty of things. It's just that we have to figure out, we have to put in. Obviously, as teachers, we are also kind of too stressed out to deliver many things. It's many of us are very new to online domain, and similarly even on offline domain. But this works both in online and offline, because majority of our classrooms where we teach, they are equipped with projectors, they are equipped with computers and so on. Majority of them, I'm not saying everybody, so we can include these things. So I feel as teachers, it is up to us to figure out what are the different resources which can actually benefit our class, benefit us, to make the class interesting, to make it to bring in technology so that we can motivate the students. You cannot expect the students to be motivated. They will not be motivated. There are hundreds of things. As I said, there is no connect that we are able to build up. Majority of the teachers are not able to build up the connect. I will not say that's a fault of student. We as teachers are old enough, old as compared to the kids, to basically bring in the motivating factor. So that is something, that motivation can be different ways you can do it. I'm just listed down a couple of. Then I feel it. I What I used to do is that when I started teaching is that if a student was not doing correct, I used to get angry. Why exactly the student is doing it wrong? Why exactly? Then I used to correct every time at every step. What exactly that happens? The student feels, okay, if the teacher is just doing it, then why should I even put in efforts? We'll lose motivation. The students used to lose motivation, and they never used to get results. I have seen that. That's the reason I'm taking my example. So based on my experience, I feel that we should not be overcorrecting. Let the students do. Let the students do when they are speaking in front. They may be wrong. They may be wrong, but not every time. Even we do mistakes, right? So let's not correct everything that they say. Let them speak. Let them speak. And once they are done, once they are done with speaking something, once they are done with the finishing, then you should thank them. Just a matter of way to do it. Just thank them, and then put in, okay, this could have been done this way, this is not completely correct, let's put it this way, that this is. So he or she will feel, okay, the teacher is trying to motivate me, is not trying to overcorrect. That you can always note it down. You know where the students are going to do mistakes, because all of you are much more experienced. Okay, so you can remind them that making mistakes is good. Only if they make mistakes, only then they will learn. So it is very much important that they should make mistakes, only then they can. Nobody is perfect, even the teachers are not perfect. Okay, now this is something that we all expect. Please, not as only as teachers, as human beings, we expect somebody to recognize us. Somebody should at least tell us, okay, you're looking good, your work was excellent, you put in a lot of effort. Whether or not they got the correct result, that's a secondary thing. Praise is a very, very, very important thing to keep up the motivation, or to keep up the morale of any student. You do not know from what background they're coming. It may be possible that there was a fight in the family, the student is disturbed. It may be possible the student had a fight with his friend, he's disturbed. There is something, he maybe he's staying in a hostel and he is missing his parents, he may be disturbed. Or there are different ways. You do not know from what background the student is coming in. So just a well done, a good morning, a smiling face, a thank you at the end of their, it's just going to motivate. It maybe it can just make the day. It's just the positivity that comes into effect. It produces a huge effect. It produces an excellent way for motivation. So start with the positive thing, and then you can actually move on to what all you want to do be done. So this is what I feel, is that just teach as you feel that you should be taught. like the way you learned it. If you feel that many of us have our ideal teachers, we still respect them. There is a reason for respecting them. The reason is very simple, that they taught us like we wanted to be taught. They taught us the things that we knew, that they knew for sure that will face difficulty in. That's the reason they are our ideal teachers. We still love them, we still like them, we still like to go back to them and tell ma'am or sir that this is where I feel now that you helped me. There are different ways of teaching. Some teachers are a little harder or rude, but they want you to help you out. So as a result, these days we have to go, or we have to change ourselves with the changing demands of the society, and we should move on. So this is what I feel. This was a crux of my feel, that you should teach like you want to be taught, and then if you feel it, you are going to deliver a huge amount of good things for the students. I hope this was good for you. Fine then.
A wonderful session. Thank you for the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so we can wind it up then.
Thank you, Sumit sir.
Thank
it was
you.
a really a wonderful session by you.
Thank you,
really appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you, ma'am.
And feedback form I'm sharing for you. It's my earnest request to all the participants, please fill the feedback form, as this was an amazing session by him.
Thank you. I would also request if you can share the recording with everybody.
Yeah, sure, sir. I'll share the feedback as well. That's the reason I'm asking everyone to fill the feedback form.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Have a great day, all of you.
Dr. Sumit.
Yes.
Dr. Sumit.
Yes.
I would like to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
The session actually was to motivate students, but I think you have really motivated us teachers. And as you rightly put across, I do agree that it was out of the box that we were suddenly exposed to online teaching.
Correct.
And the tips which you have given, I'm sure it will make a big difference to us in the next academic year.
I definitely hope so.
Thank you so much for motivating us, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you very much, sir.